We are Makilala TV, the first Filipino-American TV talk show in the New York metro area. Get to know us as we talk to the community leaders, innovators, advocates, and emerging artists who affect Filipino-American life.
There are over 40,000 Filipinos and Filipino Americans living in Queens. If we have the largest Filipino population of the New York's 5 boroughs, then why do we not have any Filipino representation? In fact, do we have any representation in all of New York? Why is voting in local, state, and national elections important to our community? And what is the Asian vote? And how do Filipinos fit within the AAPI community and America at large? I, Rachelle Ocampo, am joined with my fellow co-host, Cristina Pastor, and guest panelist, Stephanie Chrispin, Vice President of Filipino American Unity for Progress, also known as UniPro, Randy Gonzales, attorney at law in New York and New Jersey, and Myrna Santos, registered nurse and founder of the nursingoffice.com. And we will be tackling these insightful questions in this episode, Filipinos in Queens, Why We Matter. This episode is very special because it is co-sponsored by UniPro and is broken into 2 parts. This first half is a discussion with the panelists, and the second half will be featured as a town hall with our live audience asking questions directly to our panelists. Each of our panelists have diverse backgrounds and experiences in Queens, so let's get to know them first. So can each of you briefly describe your relation to Queens? Were you born there? Do you currently live there, work there? Do you organize there? And for how many years? Let's start with Steph.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks so much, Rachelle, for having us. So I'm both born and raised in Queens, and I currently live there. So I live in Jamaica Hills near St. John's University, and part of the organizing work I do with UniPro focuses on Filipino American enclaves in Forest Hills, Richmond Hill, and Woodside.
Got it. And Randy?
I would just like to say that Queens is my best friend.
Okay.
I was born and raised there. I still live there. All of my education took place in Queens. So from preschool to law school, I have stayed in Queens. So I'm very proud to say that it's my home. It's where I've been educated. It's where I've done just about everything.
Yeah, great. And Myrna?
I'm a nurse, and this March I'm 40 years in nursing, professional nursing, registered nursing, if that's what RN is for. And I started to live in Queens in 1988 until now. And I'm working at the Veterans Hospital in Brooklyn. And
That's different.
Thank you. And I represent this over 70% of the total population that Rachel was saying about the Filipino immigrants in Queens. And because of that big number, 70% are Filipinos are in healthcare, and I represent one of that. And I'm very happy to tell you that what I'm telling you now is a sad part and the happy part. The happy part, I immigrated to the United States as a H-1 visa. And all those years, because of the leadership of the Filipino-American nurses at that time, we were able to move on to the next step of immigration until we became citizens of the United States, contributing to the biggest healthcare system in the world.
I think we can discuss that later, right?
Yeah.
What I find really attractive about your background is that you were born in Queens, but you never left it. Why?
Yes.
Just a townie, I guess.
Ah, really? Okay. Steph?
Queens is where I feel most at home. So my parents moved out to Long Island as we got older and they needed more space.
And I found out we are neighbors.
Oh wait, no, we're the same person.
Yeah.
I feel like that's also just like a Filipino American dream story. Like as we get more money and we get more settled and we gain citizenship and our children are raised, we try to build them what the American dream is, and so they've moved out further. But for me, it's like where I feel most at home is in Queens.
What about you, Myrna? What do you find? What is the pull of Queens for you?
My family is the pool that's keeping me in Queens, and at the same time my job at the VA. This is my 28th year, and the Filipino community as well. I was a very quiet, never heard New Yorker at that time, but then again, I got to get out of my box as being the model citizen, which is non-talking. Now I'm speaking the most of it. So that is my reason why I am in New York, Queens, because I want to make a difference. I want to have that social activism that was developed in me because of the need of the Filipino American community.
So talking about need in the Filipino community and specifically in Queens, I know that the Bayanihan Center, which is known as like the Filipino Center in Queens, in Woodside specifically, closed down. How did that affect the Filipino community? Do you think that the Filipino community even needs a Filipino Center in Queens?
Absolutely. There's no place of convening. Right, so for all of the community-based organizations in Queens and in New York in general, it's so difficult just to find physical space to build that community. How are you supposed to know where to go to find people like you, where you can talk about the issues that you care about? If you are coming here from the Philippines, how do you find like-minded Filipinos that will help you acclimate to your new home, right? So we don't have that right now, and we are very reliant on community partnerships with not necessarily other Filipinos. You know, we share space here in El Barrio for our taping. We share space all across Manhattan, but there's no place in Queens for Filipinos who just want to convene to have
But
it.
we had Bayanihan Center and we let it go. What happened there? Anybody can talk about that?
I will talk about that.
Very briefly, yeah.
Very briefly, I will tell you that they were the first group of
That's right.
civic groups that I was connected with beginning in the around 5-10 years ago. And it was very sad that, of course, it was very happy because there's a big community of Filipinos for that civic movement. But and I was when they were having trouble in securing the place and the space in Woodside, I was willing to give them an advice on how to go further. Unfortunately, it did not happen, so they closed. And afterwards, they maintained the Bayanihan, the group, the forum, the Philippine Forum, and they have online presence. And they have sporadic places of venues for their activities. And of course, the space is very much needed.
Yeah, and I think similar to like the Kalusugan Coalition, they had a space right next to Jollibee, and it's been lost.
What does this say about community organizing among Filipino Americans?
Again,
why do we lose these resources that are already there?
Again, I would like to respond to that because I was there. I was the nurse who is with for Kalusugan also. For Kalusugan, I was there. For Bayanihan, I was there. And for the Pag-asa, I was there. And I know exactly...
Pag-asa is still there,
yes,
I think, right?
Pag-asa is still there. I knew exactly what is causing this difficulty.
What is it? Is it financial?
Of course. Financial, and financial is very... You cannot get a space for less than $1,000. Bayanihan paid more than that, triple than that, and that's why they cannot keep the place, as well as the Kalusugan Coalition. Of course, very, very expensive New York City.
So I think what we should start talking about, even just outside the space, is trying to collaborate with other organizations to create that space and pool the funding so we're not competing over each other. So I think that we could talk about that more later, but I wanted to really focus on civic engagement. Filipino representation, why don't we have representation now, and what's taking so long? Do Filipinos even vote? Do we have numbers on that?
We do vote. I mean, if we're talking about the generic AAPI community, right? If we're talking about Asian Americans, of the 18 million that are in the United States, about half, so 9 million, are of voting age.
Okay.
57% are actually registered to vote, and then 47% actually do vote. So that's like what? A quarter of Asian Americans that live in the United States are speaking for 18 million of us. Filipinos are the second largest Asian American group. So just think.
Is that nationwide?
Yes.
Nationwide, yeah.
Nationwide. So think that just a very small population is speaking for all of us. It is our duty, and I think that our right, we worked really hard. For those of us who immigrated here, we are very civically engaged in that 60% of foreign-born Filipinos are naturalized, which is very significant. It's higher than all foreign-born nationals in New York City and foreign-born Asian specific, right? So there is a foundation for Filipinos to be a political force, but I feel like there's a lack of caring.
Lack of leadership?
There needs to be more of a sense of community, right? People think, oh, well, I really should be caring about myself, my family. Why should I care about Filipinos at large? Especially this whole idea of you're not from my province or you're not from my island. What does that matter? In America, nobody cares, right?
That's right.
You can only speak for our people.
And what is UniPro, your organization, doing that's unique to engage the younger Phil-Ms?
We go where they are, right? So I feel like there's this false idea that if you just say, oh, come to me, people are going to come. That's not how it works. With social media, with the internet, information flies very readily, right? So how do you mobilize the youth? You need to go where they are. You go to their spaces. You go to schools. You go to bars. You go to professional organizations. That's where the youth are. Think about it. You're not going to find them in Central Park.
Or lawyers' bars.
Both. There's Felony, which is the Filipino American.
That's right. Randy, are you a member of any community organization?
I'm involved with Felony. I try to get involved with every group that's Filipino and trying to do something in the community. So I'm involved with Felony. I'm involved with FALDEF. I'm involved with anybody who asks for help. So Pag-asa, I've also tried to make myself available to. I try to make myself available to everybody. So, but if I'm not mistaken, FIOS is still in Queens, is it not?
Are they still?
I'm
getting mixed reports about that.
Yeah,
Not
I'm
in
not
Queens
sure
anymore.
if they are as active. I think they're doing some restructuring, but that just
But the
tells
physical
you.
location is still there, no?
I'm
No,
not.
it's
I'm not sure.
Familiar. See, and that
Yeah.
just shows there needs to be some sort of reconnection with the organizations, so that we can come back together and actually have a center, brick and mortar place where people can actually hold meetings and get together. So one other question that I had in terms of civic engagement was, in terms of representation, do you know if there's any other ways that we could reach the other generation, intergenerational wise? We know that you are focusing on students, college students, and young professionals, but what about our parents' age?
Again, you have to go where they are, right? So UniPro has done work.
Where would that be?
Right?
Yes.
So
how would we connect with them?
The casinos? Give me an example where you can find them.
About that.
Where can we find them?
We partner with other community organizations, right? So at the consulate, they actually recently had the General Assembly of a bunch of different Filipino American organizations within ConGen's purview. So that's from Maine to Vermont. And so we were the youngest contingent, the only young people there. People tend to be our parents' age, and they were so excited to have us there because they finally were able to have that intergenerational connection. And from that, we're trying to partner with them. So we partner with Pag-asa, we partner with Vynz, Metro New York. which we plan on doing a follow-up to this event for people who are not able to attend the live audience, so that we can convene Filipinos across generations, across boroughs, to understand, it's not just a young people thing. It's not, oh, well, I'm already have my career, I can't get involved.
Do you sometimes get a sense that the two generations don't really want to partner with each other? There's that divide, this Chinese wall dividing them?
There's a lot of miscommunication, I feel. Youth don't feel like our parents want to listen to us, or you want us to have warm bodies. Like,
Yeah,
oh, can you
that's
just
right.
volunteer? Can you do registration? I'm sorry, no, I actually have like something
Or
to
can
say.
you do social media?
Yeah, like we want to be actively engaged in the work. So as long as you listen, there's always the opportunity to work with younger folk. Because we're always taught, defer, and it's really important for the youth to know your voice matters too. We're the largest group. We're in the emerging workforce. I think millennials and the new generation, Generation Z, they're the first. This upcoming election will be their first time voting, right? So that's going to be like 35% of the electorate. Our vote matters, right? It's not just an old people thing. It's not just a parents thing. Like, if you don't vote, your say does not matter.
I think it also goes to education. I think people are just not comfortable voting because they don't know who to vote for. Like what resources are out there that can help them make an educated decision.
There are so many resources. So it's not just going online, right? Which is our
So
default.
we shouldn't just Google who should I vote for
Exactly,
2016?
you can't do that.
Okay, cross
If
that.
we're going to put somebody in City Hall who's Filipino, I think it should come from Queens, because that's where we have the biggest number.
Yes.
Is there an emerging leader that we can look up to and rally behind? Randy, any name that you can tell us? Myrna, any name?
I'm not
Are you
sure.
self-nominating?
I'm not sure I'm at liberty to say that.
Somebody that we can really promote out there.
Well, New York politics are a very different kind of animal. So it's not as simple as saying it on Makilala and then it happens. But you have to get a whole party behind you. So it's you have to work through the ranks, get involved, start at the bottom. And
But we have not heard of any name
No.
coming up.
no, I personally have not either. And that's my story.
I think what people have started doing, at least that I know of, is being involved in their local community organizations. Like, for example, there's a Forest Hills
Community boards.
That's
Community,
right.
there's
Just
community
school
boards.
Right.
I know that there's a lot of Filipinos who are in community boards, but I don't know if there's anyone that has actually risen up to be like a city council member. I think that's one of the first steps, definitely. Or assemblyman.
Probably, yeah.
I think there's a fear, like, oh, well, why should I be the one to be out there? When I was in DC and we were convening with Filipinos in the DC area, there was this whole idea of like, Filipinos need to get into politics. Like, you need to run. Like, you can't just be like, oh, well, we'll wait on somebody's name to run and then we'll rally behind them.
Right.
If you think that you have the right policy ideas to influence how your neighborhood looks, step up. Like, the first step is getting involved on a very local level, community boards. But you also need to be able to build relationships with people outside of the Filipino community. Understand that we are one of the various communities of color and immigrant communities. So if you're talking about Woodside, you need to engage with all of the other ethnic groups that reside in Woodside. Talk about the issues that are really impacting you, like gentrification. Like, this is why we don't have any more community centers. Our rent is too damn high. It's like, we can't afford it. So it's like, how do you create those spaces so that people will rally behind an issue instead of an identity?
One of the theories that I heard in a consulate meeting is that Filipinos tend to associate politics with corruption. That was back in the Philippines. I don't know if they still have that kind of mindset in New York. Any idea? Myrna, what do you think? Do Filipinos associate with politics here with, being corrupt? That's why we don't want to dirty our hands with getting into politics.
I think that everybody has their own perspective when it comes to politics, when it comes to leadership and all of those things. And the reality is the one that we have to deal with, not the myth, like culture. Let's talk about culture. We are Filipinos. By culture, we are very silent. We don't want to be
that's
heard.
true too, yeah.
We don't want to do things that put us in the stage. And while everybody else of the 5 major immigrants are showing off how important their culture is, we are hiding. Until lately, the Philippine Independence Day Parade and the over 200 organizations in New York has kept that image of the Filipino culture and the Filipino community out there. And we have to start and keep working among each other as an organization, not as person. Because the person, the egos, is the one that kills the whole thing. If you want to be heard out there, forget about yourself. Speak
So
to
you're
the
saying that we're very
communities.
personalistic?
Yes. So I wanted to actually close it a little bit and start
We will
closing
continue
it.
the conversation
Yes.
anyway.
Okay.
Yeah,
But my last question for this segment is, what is one piece of advice that you'd like to give the Filipino Americans in the New York metro area to be more civically engaged?
I would say that they need to find the issues that they care about and learn as much as possible about them, right? Learn not only how gentrification impacts you if you're living, here in New York City, but find out what your tenants' rights are. Find out which candidates support your rights. Find out which your local assemblyman or council person that is on your side, because they are willing to listen to you if you're willing to speak up.
And Myrna?
Well, this is my advice. Get away from the culture of the mahiyain, the silent type. Be heard, You learn about the thing, you be very surprised how much power you have in educating yourself, getting all the right information. And after that, be brave. Go work with your fellow organizations. Like in the Pag-asa Nursing Office community, we have a business model which we call shared mission, shared governance, and shared resources.
So thank you, Myrna, for that quick piece of advice. And Randy, real quick, what's your one piece of advice?
Just find the time to leave your door, look out into your neighborhood, see what you're not happy with, and find a way to do something about it. I think that's the simplest and easiest way to start.
As we close this first half of this episode, Makilala TV would like to share our thanks to Manhattan Neighborhood Network for hosting us, UniPro for co-sponsoring this episode, to the guest panelists, and to the live audience. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Now we have a special performance by Karen Joy Pangantihon, who is also one of our lead performers with me in an upcoming community production called Raise Panay on March 31st and April 2nd. She's also going to be accompanied by pianist Luke Williams. Let's give a round of applause to welcome Karen as she performs her rendition of David Bowie's Is There Life on Mars?
It's a god-awful small affair to the girl with the mousy hair, and her mommy is yelling no, and her daddy has told her to go, but her friend is nowhere to be seen. Now she walks through her sunken dreams. She could see with the clearest view, and now she's hooked to the silver screen. But the film is a saddening bore, 'cause she's lived it 10 times or more. She could spit in the eyes of fools as they ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the lawman beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if he'll ever know. He's in the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars? on America's tortured brow. Then Mickey Mouse has grown up a cow. Now the workers have struck for fame, 'cause Lenin's on sale again. See the mice with their million hordes, from Ibiza to the Norfolk Broads. Rule Britannia's out of bounds. To my mother, my dog, and clowns. But the film is a saddening bore, 'cause I wrote it 10 times or more. It's about to be read again, as I ask you to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall. Oh man, look at those cavemen go. It's the freakiest show. Take a look at the lawman beating up the wrong guy. Oh man, wonder if he'll ever know he's in the best-selling show. Is there life on Mars? Is there life on Mars? Is there life on Mars?
Thank you.